Hello, I'm Bliznub, and welcome back to Building the Best. Today we're going to be looking at the Atomos. Again, I should add, I did do a video on the Atomos before, but that's now a little bit out of date, being from 2 years ago. So, Atomos basically is a beam weapon which, on hit with the target, will bounce to nearby targets, hitting them as well for full damage. It is kind of multi-shot heaven in I can't really put that any better. It is just fantastic fun to use. Now, unfortunately, this weapon isn't going to be god tier. It simply never will. However, like I say, one of the most fun weapons in the game to use, in my humble opinion. Now, since they've reworked it, the Atomos' fire rate and magazine size have increased, and its status chance and damage were effectively lowered. Its status chance was reworked, but before it was proccing all like 100% of the time, all the time, many times a second. Now it will proc a reasonable amount. So what I would recommend if you're going to build this weapon is that you do just take it out with 2 or 3 of the 60/60s on and see if you're getting the amount of procs you want. Because, quite frankly, that 71.4% is more than you need. I personally found the 58% to be just fine, but find the right balance. I went out and tried it with a different balance of status chance to damage until I found the sweet spot that I liked. Anyhow, moving swiftly onwards, the build in my original video is this one, which is terrible now because it's just pure damage. Like, don't get me wrong, pure damage is often the way to go with weapons, but not this one. So what I went for was 3 of the 60/60s, which at the time net me 100% status chance, I believe, before multi-shot, which was kind of fantastic. Damage, more damage, yet more damage, and Ruinous Extension. Now, Ruinous Extension is currently kind of unnecessary on this weapon. When it was reworked, it had its base range increased. Ruinous Extension was sort of required to make the Atomos work before, but now very much not needed. Also, Ruinous Extension used to work on the bouncing shots, I think. Kind of want to confirm that. Whatever. Now it definitely doesn't. The beams that come out of your targets after you hit them are not affected by this at all. And for that reason, I also wouldn't recommend punch through on this, though I did try it quite a lot in the hope that the beams would hit the target and then punch through to an enemy on the other side of a wall, and they did, and it was crap. It was just a waste of a slot. Anyhow, moving swiftly onwards to my actual build, what we have here is everything. Just everything. We have Hornet Strike, Barrel Diffusion, and Auger Pact for damage. No Lethal Torrent, because this weapon is now a little more thirsty than it used to be with that 8 fire rate. And because I wanted more damage, and Lethal Torrent, curiously, does not provide as much as Auger Pact. Pistol Pestilence, Frostbite, and Jolt for the damage and status chance, and not Scorch. Absolutely not Scorch, unless you want to have Heat as one of your element types. Personally, I like the ability to have Radiation Viral, Corrosive Blast, and Gas Magnetic, all just as options, and I can switch these mods around and have whichever I want for the particular time. And also, it's worth stating that, like, whilst I say I'm going for damage, and that's why I put Auger Pact here, yes, Primed Heated Charge does exist, and yes, I decided not to use it, simply because I didn't want Heat to be my highest. I didn't want Radiation to be massively above Viral. If I were to, Shall I show it off? Fuck it. Yes, why not? If I were to slap Primed Heated Charge in here, you can get a rough idea of how much increase it would be. It's actually about a 50% increase in weapon damage over having a 60/60 mod. But I would say it's not worth it because I want a relatively even balance between these two damage types so that they get relatively even amounts of status procs. If my Viral is falling behind my Radiation, I'm going to find it a bit more of a slog to chew through my enemies. And at the same time, you actually don't need Viral to be that much higher than the Radiation. You only ever need the one Viral proc at the end of the day, whereas I suppose you only need the one radiation proc as well. Okay, bit of a bad example, but you get my meaning. Having an even balance of these means you will get an even spread of status procs. And with this 58.8%, you will definitely see more than enough of those status procs. Oh yeah, finishing it out, I went for Prime Pistol Gambit and Prime Target Cracker to get 43% crit chance and a 3.6 times multiplier, because the crit on this weapon isn't amazing, but there are primed mods, so we can make it amazing. And whilst, yes, I could have put on more crit chance, crit damage, and there's plenty of mods for it, actually it's not going to be the highest damage you can squeeze out of this, and you would lose then the utility of being able to have such things as radiation viral. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Oh, right, of course, if you have a Riven, stick it where appropriate. If it's an element Riven, stick it on an element. If it's a damage Riven, stick it here. Multi-shot, here. Crit. Well, I mean, figure it out. Come on. Drop it into different slots, see what fits. At the end of the day, that's always the best way to fit a Riven. Anyhow, like I was saying, at 727 damage, this weapon actually is never going to be god tier. It will do fantastic things, and it was incredibly fun to use, but unfortunately you're not going to be popping level 100 enemies. So I'm actually going to go try this in the sortie, because today's sortie is a physical enhancement one, and Atomos doesn't care. It just doesn't care. Well, can the Kayla detain? Shut the hell up.
I can appreciate that,
Please?
and so does my audience.
Oh, Hydron. Okay, there we go. Hydron. Can I not redo that? So, right, testing this thing out. Level 60 enemies. Various kinds. Simulate. So, as I was trying to show you, yeah, this weapon will deal extraordinarily well against level 60 enemies, and a tiny bit higher as long as you don't have Xmas kicking about. Frankly, obviously there's going to be the higher health, slightly harder enemies that are going to take a bit to chew through, but that's why I say you want to be building this weapon as a bit of a status weapon. Like, it's a crowd clearer, not a single target thing. Those guys were terrible for showing this thing off. Let's get some... Screw it. Yes, butchers. Why not? Can we get rid of the text? Let's get rid of the text. Let's just have a... I would like a big old crowd of butchers, please. Thank you. Alright. So. Okay, let's get rid of the infested. This weapon, by the way, with Corrosive Blast or Radiation Fire, it will just melt infested, honestly. Given how infested gather, it will just always melt infested. But moving on, so we can see it's going to take a tiny bit longer to chew through some of the enemies with more health, and in particular it may struggle with heavy gunners, unless you get a viral proc and a crit with the same proc, if that makes sense, in which case they will just fall over. In fact, let me show you. Because I can do that. I'm in the simulacrum. Simulacron? I'm here. This place. Regular heavy gunners? Yay! I would like 20 of them. Thank you. I just saw the select all button. Please don't hate me. Alright. Ladies. So... as you can see, this is why I'm saying you really want to be going for the crowd control proc first. Like, in this case, viral is my crowd control proc. But if I were to put blast on this thing, for instance, let me just do that. It means that when you dive into a crowd of enemies, not this term. I'm having a good day here. I'm having the best day. Yes. If I were to put Corrosive Blast on this weapon, which would probably be the best way of dealing with heavy gunners, to be honest. Instantly, they're all on the floor, they've stopped shooting me, they're now getting corrosive procs out the everywhere, and there we go. like, sure, they're not instantly dead, and in fact some of them got back up and shot me because I forgot to reload before I started. But you can deal with the problem in very short order, and especially when you get them on the floor like that. So, in that sense, fantastic way of dealing with enemies. And of course, like I say, if you are gonna take gas magnetic, just don't take gas magnetic on this thing. But if you are going to do that awful thing, you do want gas as your majority, so that you can just spray a crowd, get a bunch of gas procs, and then watch the damage tick away. Watch the terrible damage from your awful build tick away. Why would you put gas on a beautiful weapon like the Atomos? Just why? Just look at that. Look at that and feel shame. Anyhow, let me put those poor people. Let me put those poor heavy gunners out of their misery with some radiation viral, which, like I say, definitely not the right damage type for dealing with these, but my preferred damage type because it's really funny when they all start shooting at each other and knocking each other over with the ground pound, and of course then the virals halving their health, and oh, it's a good time all round. Fun for all the family. Anyhow, this has been a bit of a longer video than I intended in the first place. But yeah, in summary, Atomos, bit of a crowd control weapon, but absolutely fantastic for dealing with those crowds. Like, you can't... Aside from something like the Tonkor, there just isn't a better weapon for crowd clear. This thing is beautiful. It is basically a secondary version of the Amprex, and it does that fantastically, and I'm talking too much. Anyhow, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. As always, please like and comment below, and let me know if you want to see a particular build or video or whatever, and I will do my best to accommodate. I'm currently working on a few that were requested in the last video. This being one of them, I suppose. And yeah, and subscribe if you want to see more. I always forget to say that. Anyhow, I'm Bliznub, and this is the Atomos. Oh yeah.